Hello and welcome to English for You. I'm Seb.
And I'm Mike.
And today we are not talking about English. We are talking about Spanish culture.
Muy bien.
Muy bien.
That's my Spanish.
¿Cómo estás?
¿Dónde está la biblioteca? Where is the library?
No lo sé.
Oh, you don't know?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I understand more Spanish than I can actually speak. So I get the impression you've spent some time in Spain.
Yes,
Okay.
I did. I lived in Madrid for almost 6 years, actually.
Cool.
So I traveled a lot around Spain. I never went and did this thing, though. So I'm really interested by today's article, La Tomatina, which is a festival that they have every summer in Spain.
It's definitely a festival. It's quite famous. I think a lot of people might have seen it on Nat Geo or, a travel show or something like that. But they have a lot of festivals in Spain. Did you ever go to any other festival? Because I guess you were a student there, right?
Yes.
So you often went home in the summer, which
did.
might be closer to festival season. But did you ever get a chance to go to an interesting festival that you would only find in Spain? Not like, Christmas or Easter, something really Spanish.
Some of the favorite ones I went to was Las Fallas in Valencia.
Las Fallas. Now, what is Las Fallas? I don't know that Spanish word, that's for sure.
Las Fallas is actually not Spanish. It's from Valencian. And it's it basically means the flames, roughly. And it's a festival where they build these huge kind of papier-mâché sculptures around the city.
Wow.
And at the end, they have them out for like maybe a month. And at the end, they set fire to all of them but the best one.
So you went to Firefest.
It's Firefest. It's like Burning Man, but in a city. And
What are the characters? Do they do it like famous people or saints or Spanish kings or
all of it? They can do it on anything. They actually have a lot of artists from abroad that come in.
So you could see an Ed Sheeran giant.
You can see a giant Ed Sheeran. There's
burning on fire.
I've seen a giant King of Spain.
Okay.
With a massive nose.
Now, if they burn the King of Spain, doesn't that mean something?
Yeah, they set fire
bad?
to him that year.
I think the king might be upset about that.
Yeah, they always like to say in Spain. Actually, ironically, in English, Spain is different. So that's the explanation you give to everything that you don't understand.
And
Spain is different.
It is modern times. Maybe if you burned a picture of the king hundreds of years ago, you would be in trouble.
That would be a problem.
But these days, they just think, the tourists like it or something like that. All right, well, I'm not sure if we're going to get as much fire at this festival, but we're definitely going to get dirty.
We're going to get some ammunition.
Yeah, it's a festival all about tomatoes.
Yes, La Tomatina.
They should get this festival and your fire festival and have a great tomato soup festival.
Oh, that would be... I don't know if I want tomato soup poured on top of me.
That'd be a lot of tomato soup.
Yes, but we'll put that in the maybe pile and we'll move on to today's article.
Right.
Reading. La Tomatina is food fighting on a grand scale. It's 11 a.m. in Buñol, Spain, on the last Wednesday of August. Several trucks arrive. They are carrying about 145,000 kilograms of tender, ripe tomatoes. But these tomatoes are not for salads. These are the tomatoes for La Tomatina. 20,000 people use these tomatoes as ammunition in a giant food fight. La Tomatina is huge in scale and is quite the sight. People are crowded together like they're at an outdoor rock festival, but they're red and wet. They almost look like they're swimming in tomato soup. The madness begins with a pistol shot, lasts for an hour, and then the cleaning up begins. It's unclear exactly how La Tomatina got started, but it was first held in 1945. Some say that city politicians had upset some people and were then attacked with tomatoes. Others say people in the town threw tomatoes at a singer because the singer sang badly. Throwing tomatoes was likely fun because it happened again the following year.
All right, so the article begins by telling us where this is taking place.
And then we learn it's 11 a.m. in Buñol, Spain, on the last Wednesday of August. Wonderful. Now we know what time to be there, where to go, and when to go. So it's Buñol. It's a town, right? I don't think we would call it a city.
It's like a village town.
It's pretty small. All
yes,
right?
it's quite small.
Probably have to travel there by bus or something like that. And at 11 a.m. on the last Wednesday of August. Interesting. So it's kind of like a Dragon Boat or Chinese New Year. It's one of those holidays that kind of changes date a little bit year after year. But it's basically look at your calendar of August, find the last Wednesday, whatever the number is. That's the day to be in Buñol, Spain, and try to get there at 11 a.m. because you're going to see something pretty amazing.
Yes, something pretty unusual. The article says, several trucks arrive. They are carrying about 145,000 kilograms of tender, ripe tomatoes.
That's a lot of tomatoes or tomatoes.
A lot of tomatoes. So these tomatoes aren't just any tomatoes. They are tender tomatoes. And that's going to be quite important to the story later on. But tender basically means soft in a way that's easy to bite into. So I always think of tender and think of fruit or maybe slow-cooked meat. You know, if you have some really nice beef that's been cooked very, very well, or lamb, it will be very tender. It won't be chewy. It will be very easy to bite into, and it will just melt in your mouth. It will just come apart very, very easily. So tender pork chops. But we always use this in a positive way. We don't use it in a negative way. So you would never say tender rotten fruit.
Right.
Right.
No.
You don't want to bite into rotten fruit.
Exactly.
You just say it's mushy. It's I don't know, not hard, you know?
Yeah.
But tender, yes, tender can be used for food, or it can also be used for other things too. We can talk about tenderness as well, which is the act of being very kind or gentle, having a tender outlook or a tender attitude towards someone. Tammy's mom spoke to her in a tender voice. Our example sentence for tender as it's used in the article, though, is this meat is so tender and juicy it almost falls off the bone. Right, so very delicious sounding use for tender there.
Delicious. All right. So these tender tomatoes, these would be the kind of one that the supermarket, you might buy them because they're ripe. If something is ripe, it's really ready to eat. Probably today, maybe tomorrow. You don't want to leave it too long because then it's going to get too soft. It might start to smell or something like that. If it's unripe, then it's kind of a little bit too young. An unripe tomato might be kind of green and it will be hard and it won't be juicy. It might even like crunch a little bit when you bite into it, and it might even be sour as well. So you don't want you have your sort of green underripe or unripe tomatoes. Ripe means it's perfect for eating, but again, time is passing, so don't leave it for too long. If you eat it today or tomorrow, that would be perfect. Here's another one that everyone is familiar with. It says, you can tell the banana is ripe because it is yellow and not green or brown. If it's green, it's unripe. It's too young. If it's brown, we would say it's overripe. It's pretty soft now, and you might not enjoy eating it so much. All right, back to our article. So here we have 145,000 kilograms of tender, ripe tomatoes. You could probably make like, what, 1 million pizzas with that if you were turning those tomatoes into sauce?
The world's biggest pizza.
This is a huge amount of potato. Notice it said trucks, plural, not one truck. We're talking maybe 6, 10, 20 trucks. We don't know. But a lot of tomatoes just arrived in town. What is going on? Well, the article says, but these tomatoes are not for salads. I hope not. That's way too much salad. These are the tomatoes for La Tomatina. So they're bringing tomatoes to this festival. In fact, the whole festival is about tomatoes, which is good because they have 145,000 kilograms of them. What are we going to do with these tomatoes? I'm almost afraid to ask.
Yeah, you should be, because 20,000 people use these tomatoes as ammunition in a giant food fight.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy. And also a huge waste of tomatoes, and also incredibly funny.
Yes.
So they're going to throw them at each other.
They're going to throw them at each other, and we know that because we've got this word ammunition. Now, ammunition just normally means small explosives or pellets, things that you throw or fire from a gun. I always think of bullets when I think of ammunition, so things you fire from a gun. But cannonballs could be ammunition as well.
Right.
And in this case, tomatoes are ammunition because we're throwing the tomatoes at other people.
Okay.
Right? We're not going to eat them. We're literally using them like a weapon.
Right. Yes, exactly. Of course, though, here we're not actually in a war. We're not trying to hurt people. So, yeah, anything you might be throwing at other people and even just kind of a fun play fight would be snowballs. As a kid, when we were living in Canada, we would, make a lot of ammunition for 5 minutes, make a lot of snowballs, put a pile there, and then the kids on the other side of the street would start throwing theirs, and we would throw ours, and after a few seconds, we'd say, all right, stop, we need to make more ammunition. Snowballs in that case, but it could be bullets or shells for guns and things like that. Here, though, it's tomatoes, so that's good, and I imagine being hit by a tomato would probably hurt similar to being hit by a snowball. It would hurt, but it would probably be okay, but you wouldn't want to get it right on the front of your nose or something like that. It says, La Tomatina is huge in scale and is quite the sight. Well, yes, sure, when you had 20,000 people throwing tomatoes at each other, this will be quite the sight, a very unusual, amazing thing to see. And also, hey, 20,000 people are involved. It is going to be huge in scale. Now, scale here basically means size.
Yes.
Yeah.
It basically means size.
Right.
Scale actually has a bunch of different meanings.
Right.
Here it means size. So
right.
if we're talking about a large scale, a grand scale, a small scale.
Especially compared to other things like it.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Especially when we're talking about something that could be many different sizes.
Right.
So if we talk about throwing a party, for example, there's lots of different kinds of parties. A party could be 3 people in your house sharing a cake to celebrate your birthday.
Yep.
Or it could be a huge parade of thousands of people going through the streets.
Absolutely.
It could be anything in between. So when we say scale, a party on a small scale or a large scale, we mean it's a bigger kind of party or it's a smaller kind of party, basically. So on a grand scale, or in the article we've got huge in scale, we mean that it's a very, very big food fight. It's not just 3 people throwing tomatoes.
True.
So our example sentence for scale is, the movie star's wedding was on a very large scale and over 800 guests were invited.
Wow, that is a big wedding.
And it very big wedding.
Probably took a few days, maybe even. They had several days of parties and whatnot. So that's a very large-scale wedding. If you get married with just a couple of friends in your house, that would be a small-scale wedding. All right, so here we are, the large-scale, a really huge food fight, 20,000 people, 145,000 kilograms of tomatoes flying through the air, and it is very crowded. People are crowded together like they're at an outdoor rock festival, but they're red and wet. So if you've ever been to an outdoor rock festival or any kind of outdoor celebration like that, you know what it's like to be packed in, or even if you've been on a busy MRT in the morning, you know you're shoulder to shoulder, back to back, front to front with people. It's hard to move. You can't just say, "Excuse me, can I get out?" No, you're kind of stuck in the middle of the crowd because it's a big outdoor event with thousands and thousands of people. When we're outdoor, or outdoors, as you might also say, you're not inside, you're outside. If you look up, you don't see a ceiling with lights or a roof over your head. You see sky and clouds and trees because you are outside. We can also use this just to kind of talk about being in nature. I like to spend time outdoors. You're not saying I like to walk out of my apartment in the middle of the city and enjoy the dirty air. You're saying I like to go hiking, I like to go down to the beach, I like to sit by a lake and go fishing in nature. But if we're at an outdoor rock festival, it's outside. If it rains, people are going to get wet. But of course, events that are outdoor, you can fit a lot more people, right? Because it's not inside. Sometimes, though, being outdoor is less than comfortable. Our example sentence says it can be hard to do outdoor sports in Taiwan during the summer because it is so hot.
The article says they almost look like they're swimming in tomato soup. It sounds like madness.
It does sound like madness. And with the soup part, it's not just, bits of tomato. It's the watery juice of it's like a thick juice. It's like soup.
Slurry.
And it would, slurry is a good word.
Tomato slurry.
S-L-U-R-R-Y. And I guess it's coming up like above your shoes, maybe up to your ankles or your knees in some places. That is crazy because it goes on a while. And then we learned the madness begins with a pistol shot, bang, lasts for an hour, and then the cleaning up begins. Why are people doing this? But this does sound like madness. It sounds like a crazy thing that's going on.
It sounds like a crazy time. Now, madness obviously means crazy, but we want to take a closer look at this word because it's got the ending ness here. Now, ness is a suffix that means that we're turning an adjective into a noun. I find that this is normally to do with adjectives about qualities or adjectives about emotions as a rule of thumb. So we can talk about madness or
happiness.
Happiness, that's another good one. Sadness, yes. So these are all adjectives we can turn into nouns in this way.
Okay, but no one's going crazy. No one's going mad. It's just sort of like the crazy activity. The crazy party begins. And, if you looked at it and you know nothing about it, you might say, these people are mad. These people have lost their minds. Because it does look so unusual, so strange. And also, maybe you would ask, why? Why are you doing this? This is madness. But it all begins with a pistol shot. That's kind of how, races or running races in the Olympics are often begun, right? A pistol shot. I think these days they don't actually use a pistol. They use a special kind of timing gun. But a pistol is a gun. It's a small gun that you can hold in one hand when we think of police officers and that gun that's on their belt as they walk around or drive around in their car. When you think of cowboys, they famously would have 2 pistols on each hip and they would pull them out and shoot at each other. This is a small gun, not a long rifle, a long gun like that you need 2 hands with. Pistols or something that soldiers might carry, but generally they carry a rifle, a longer gun. But police officers in the city, of course, will carry or wear pistols in many places. So we know what we're doing, but why are we doing this? How did this all start?
Well, it's unclear, apparently. It's unclear exactly how La Tomatina got started.
How does someone forget how they start throwing millions of tomatoes at each other?
Especially when it happened so recently, because the article says, but it was first held in 1945. So there's people alive who were alive before La Tomatina started.
That's a good point. Ask a grandma in Buñol.
There you go. Just ask an old lady in Buñol and you'll get the answer. You'll understand how it got started. Now, got started just basically means begun, like how it started happening in the first place. But there's lots of different stories behind this. I kind of like the first one.
Which is, some say that city politicians had upset some people and were then attacked with tomatoes. Okay, well, there is kind of a tradition of throwing rotten tomatoes at people you don't like, especially when they're making a speech. People like politicians, right? I think
bad actors.
Back in the old day, they used to do that. These days, people still occasionally throw eggs at politicians if they're, making a speech and someone in the crowd is like, you're a liar, you're a bad person, you're trying to hurt us. They might throw an egg or a tomato at someone. I think also this is a kind of a tomato farming area of Spain, right? So they probably had a lot of extra tomatoes.
A lot of extra tomatoes. They probably just harvested the tomatoes.
Right.
So these are the old tomatoes.
And who knows? Maybe this politician was kind of one of those, kind of tough guy politicians, and he took the tomato off his jacket and threw it back, and then someone threw another tomato, and it quickly became a food fight. So, I could see how it might happen, but
it would be surprising, though, for a politician to do that.
Possibly, but who knows? In the Spanish countryside, maybe the politicians are pretty tough.
Yeah,
but you would imagine that there would have been a newspaper reporter there who would have written down and recorded exactly how this all started.
Exactly.
But apparently it started with a politician.
Right. A politician, that's someone who works in politics. So think about mayors, presidents, prime ministers. Those are all politicians. Even somebody who works in, your local government office. Generally, I think politicians need to be someone who's elected, somebody who has a certain amount of power. Somebody who's a secretary or takes out the bins at City Hall isn't really a politician.
True, but then again, certain politicians like Mr. Xi or Mr. Putin were
not elected.
Kind of elected, but maybe not like other ones.
I would say if it's in
But
Taiwan,
it's not a king.
If it's in Taiwan, I would probably say they were
And it's not a
elected.
king, it's not a queen, it's not someone who was
a job.
born into this position.
Exactly.
It's someone who works in government making laws and stuff like that.
Exactly. So our example sentence for politician is, Eliza was the first female politician to be elected when she became the mayor of a small town. Okay, so she became a politician when she became the mayor. She was in charge of the town. So our grammar point for this sentence, some people say that politicians had upset some people and were attacked with tomatoes. So we've got this had upset construction here. Now, this is basically the past perfect tense, which is like the past tense, but before. So the past tense. We use the past tense or the pluperfect tense to talk about things that happened a really long time ago or things that happened before a past event. We make it by using the verb had. So had, not have, and then the past participle of a verb. So it's similar to the present perfect. Like you could say, I have eaten. To turn that into the past perfect, we just change the have to had, and we've got I had eaten.
Okay.
Normally, we use the past perfect when we're talking about a change. So you did something and then it changed. It wasn't the same. But all of this happened in the past. So, for example, I had fallen asleep when Derek arrived home. So this one is showing that when Derek arrived home, I was already asleep. If I use the past simple, I fell asleep when Derek came home, then that means that I fell asleep when Derek was in the house, when he came to the house.
Right as he walked in the door, you fell asleep.
Exactly. So the meaning changes slightly. Anyway, let's continue. And we've got this word upset.
Yes, that's right. Politicians might upset people and then the people will be unhappy because that's what upset means. You could use it as an adjective. I'm very upset because I failed my math test or something. But you can also use it as a verb. To upset someone is the same kind of thing. If you are upset, you are not happy. You could be angry, sad, worried. You're just not in a good mood. You're not happy. If you upset a person, you make them angry, sad, worried. You put them in that kind of bad mood. So if you fail your test, you will be upset, but you will also upset your parents when you come home and say, hey, look, I got 17 on my math test. That will upset them. They will be upset, and then they will make you stay home all weekend studying math, and then you will be upset. They will upset you. So try not to upset each other because, life should be better than that. For example, Wilson upset his sister when he broke her webcam. Well, yeah, of course his sister would be upset if he broke her property.
Exactly. So that's not the only story of how La Tomatina started. Okay. Another one is others say people in the town threw tomatoes at a singer because the singer sang badly.
Oh, that's not nice.
Yes, not very nice. But we did say before, if you don't like someone on stage in some places, and sometimes people have thrown fruit or thrown tomatoes or thrown old vegetables or eggs to show that they're not happy.
And maybe she was singing so badly windows were breaking and cats were running out to the town and maybe it was like a real danger how bad her singing was. Anyways, the article also concludes with throwing tomatoes was likely fun because it happened again the following year. Well, that's the thing about a food fight. It might be a big mess. You might not really know why it started, but at the end of it, you might turn to your friend as you have, food running down your clothes and face and go, that was fun.
All right, we're going to pause now and go to our For You Chat question, but tomorrow we will be back with a little bit more. So let's talk about our For You Chat question now.
For You Chat.
All right, so we're back with our chat question, and I guess it's no big surprise that it's about La Tomatina. So you're kind of a veteran of Spanish festivals, but not this one. Would you like to? Would you like to participate in La Tomatina, and why or why not?
I would love to participate in La Tomatina. Yeah, La Tomatina is one of those festivals that I really wanted to go to, but I was never in Spain at the time.
Right, because it's in the summertime.
It's in the summertime. I used to go home, see my family in the summertime.
Okay. Did any of your friends ever go? That you remember that they came back and told you about their Tomatina adventure?
None of my foreign friends did, actually.
Okay.
Because everybody was in school, went home, or they were working and the schools are closed.
It's funny.
So
I don't know a lot of Taiwanese people who've gone to that Yanshui fireworks festival, but a lot of the foreigners that I know, the ones who want an adventure, they have gone. So often when these festivals are in your local country, you've heard about them and you got to travel and because that's the kind of thing I would think. I'd like to go there, but the crowds must be crazy. Like, how do you get there? Where do you stay? You'd have to take a shower and clean up afterwards. Where do you do all that stuff? So
well, maybe they have showers. Just
I don't know,
there.
but that's the kind of thing that might make me stop going, and maybe local people might also say the same thing. Oh, it's all for the tourists.
Exactly. I'd like to propose an improvement to La Tomatina, actually. They could have a huge food fight, and then afterwards they can have a huge water fight to get everybody clean again.
That's not a bad idea. Have that Thai festival, right? The water...
like Songkran.
Songkran, right? Where that's a great idea. And I'm sure the local people who probably do most of the cleaning up, they would think, yeah, sure, let's combine some Thai and Spanish culture and make our lives a lot easier.
All right, we will see you tomorrow when we will be talking a little bit more about La Tomatina. And until then, bye-bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Tender. The meat was cooked until it was so tender that it easily came off the bone. Ripe. When these fruits are ripe, they change color from green to yellow. Scale. Americans were shocked when they realized the scale of the damage that was caused by the huge bomb. Outdoor. There's always the chance that an outdoor event will be canceled if there's a big rainstorm. Politician. The politician promised that she would do her best to make the city a better place. Upset. Jill said some very rude things to Thomas, and that really upset him.
智慧小补帖
Ammunition. Pistol.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net